Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me introduce you to the great, fantastic, awesome, incredible. There's not enough adjectives in the world with these great two people, Dr. Chris and Tina Johnson. Dr. Chris Morris and Tina Johnson are they're going to share with you a little bit about their background. It's extensive. Without further ado, I'm going to turn the webinar over to you guys. Thank you for jumping on.
All right, thank you so much, Joe, and thank you, Steve. Always great to hear from you. Yes, when Dr. Chris and I first developed StemRenu, we created this ideal formulation for long-term health and regeneration. And we did this for the whole body as opposed to a specific system because we wanted to help people with their health and wellness in a profound way. So we found in nature what conventional science is spending billions and billions of dollars in research to duplicate. And to talk a little bit about our credentials and our history, Dr. Chris is a practitioner in naturopathy, and he has been known internationally. He is an author. He's a former NFL football player, so he's had a few bumps and bruises along the way, and he's needed to, first of all and foremost, after that career, heal his own body. So he has a lot of great knowledge and information and amazing research and scientists. And I'm Tina Johnson, currently an advanced health and nutrition consultant and working towards my naturopathy degree. My background is in TV, radio, education, and understanding technology. And so I'm also a medical intuitive. And so when we looked at bringing this product together, we wanted to make sure that we had leading edge science and technology brought together to bring this StemRenu out into the world.
Exactly, Tina. And, you know, your background with your training and understanding of the body is just not just physical, but it's manifestation of energy. And we need to facilitate all that, the mind, body, the spirit, all is connected together. And what people need to understand most about StemRenu is that it addresses the core issues that cause the breakdown in the body. And you're going to hear about these core issues from science and doctors and other companies, because they might address one or two of them, where StemRenu does multiple factors. It helps with pH balance. It helps with the reduction of stress, which is the underlying cause of breakdown. It helps with insulin regulation, which means it's facilitating blood sugar balance and inflammatory response. And this is why someone like a practitioner like Steve can experience the multiple benefits in so many of his patients because it addresses the core issues. I worked with Dr. Brzezinski's technology back in the early 90s, and back then his neoplastones were called neuropeptides. And there's these magical living proteins that have the ability to signal and communicate to the rest of the body to bring back the balance and harmony that everyone is looking for, and is the underlying cause when you get out of balance. It's the underlying cause of degeneration and disease. So, Joe, we feel very fortunate to have uncovered a combination of very powerful foods that when you put them together, unlike anything else out there, they have the ability to deal with the foundational issues of an individual. So you see here on this slide that we're looking at the power of stem cells, okay? The thing that we want to share today is that so much of the stem cell information out there is dealing with marketing. It's dealing with hype. There's very few clinicians or scientists that understand it's not the stem cell alone, it's the signaling that the stem cell produces. And as you see in this diagram here, stem cells are remarkable. They have the ability to differentiate into all different kinds of tissue And that's what makes them so magical. And also they replenish themselves. They go back into their own little stem cell bank. So they make a new stem cell as well as differentiate into different types of tissue. But none of this happens without the signaling. And that's what we've uncovered with the StemRenu formulation, is to facilitate this signaling to the stem cell and to the individual cells that facilitate the metabolic function of the body.
And as we age, we begin to really decline in that signaling capability. And so by being able to replenish that again or work with that, we're able to reactivate that signaling process that we've lost.
Okay, let's talk a little bit where those signals come from. And this slide shows you that we access one of the key ingredients from Norway, and the reason for Norway is because of its pristine environment and the fact that the egg producers are just so specific or detailed in making sure everything is pure and clean, and the hens they raise are pasture raised. They're out in the fields, so they not only get their organic feed, but they get the things in nature that they look for instinctively to balance and replenish themselves. And this process is very unique, and you'll see a lot of companies that might be using egg protein in their formulations, but it's not just the egg protein, it's the incubated egg. And what that means is that an egg is fertilized, and it needs to be incubated as up to about 10 days, because between the 7th and 10th day, these magical proteins we've been talking about that do the signaling, this is when they mature and develop. And we harvest these signaling proteins on the 10th day before they're infused into the embryo, because the magic of life is happening inside this egg. And before these proteins are infused into the embryo to make the heart and the kidneys and the lungs and the nervous system, we harvest them, and then this is what we're introducing into our own body so that we can activate this signaling process for regeneration and repair. Think about it. At the pre-embryonic stage, before these proteins are introduced into the embryo, this is why we say they're pre-embryonic, they are creating the life and at the most formative time. It's a time that we're under the greatest stress. It's a time that we're under the fastest development. And these are the very unique proteins that don't exist once we're adults. These are the proteins we don't have available to us. And we've found something in nature that can reintroduce this into our being.
And when you look at an egg, from an egg when the egg is laid to when it turns into a chicken, it's 21 days. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot that needs to happen in there, and those proteins, those peptides have so much to do with the formative forces to be able to get that egg to the chicken.
Okay, here's an example that we like to share that helps people understand where the graph shows where we're at today in our culture with our understanding of nutrition. We're dealing with replenishment science, and this is where we eat the best foods and we take the best nutrition, and we're finding that we don't reach our biological potential, because within our blueprint, within every one of our cells, we have the ability to live to be 120, 130 years old with a quality of life. And yet we're only, in the countries that are most developed, you're seeing that we live maybe to be 80, 85 at the most, where the average can be much higher. And when you look at the cell, what's happening to the cells that's preventing this biological potential? What's preventing that is the signaling. It's the difference between the cell of that baby and the cell of that 70-year-old hand is that skin cell can have the same blueprint of the individual, and yet the only difference is that the signaling has declined. So over that 70 years, the signaling to the cell, once it declines, it loses its ability to regenerate in its most healthy and most formative way. So we're telling everyone that we can reintroduce those signals, we can reintroduce that magic into the body so that you have the regenerative capabilities of your youth. So a skin cell can replace itself every 2 weeks when you're young, but when you're older, it takes 12 to 14 weeks. When you reintroduce this signaling, we've seen examples of individuals replacing their tissue within 2 to 3 weeks, like they were young again. And this is the magic that we're introducing and the excitement that you've discovered, Joe, when you first found this product. This is, we don't have to spend a lot of time here, but this is just an example of what's going on in your body. This is the signaling. This is a cross-section of the surface of your cell. And all those little yellow and purple molecules floating to the surface are the signaling molecules that go to the receptor sites on the cells. You have hundreds of thousands of receptor sites. And this is magically going on your trillions of cells every second of your life. And you don't have to feel it. Fortunately, we don't, because there's just so much activity. We'd be just totally overwhelmed and confused. But this is the signaling that is lost. This is the signaling that's depleted and becomes deficient as we age. And you'll see on the next slide, when that signaling happens, it goes to the surface of the cell, and from there it gets introduced into the internal mechanism of the cell. And those signals get communicated to the blueprint. This is the genetic instruction that Steve was talking about, how the body can repair and regenerate itself, no matter what the condition is that if you have this healthy signaling going into this blueprint to create the healthy response of the cell, it knows how to repair itself. It knows how to regenerate itself. And if it's too far gone, it knows how to destroy itself, because those are all parts of the cycles of life. How to regenerate and repair, or to pass on and create new. So this is the magic of signaling, and some of the things we're trying to show here. When you find an individual that has the ability to signal and communicate again, you see this regenerative process. And think of it this way. When you look at stress, what does stress do? Stress breaks down the body, and stress sends out its own signals that cause this breakdown. And if you look at our next slide here, you're going to see the changes that happen. Again, we're focusing on the skin because this is what people see. And when wrinkles come into the body, when you see a breakdown of the internal organs and things like that, this is what stress is causing. This is causing a breakdown in the structure of the tissue. And so the signaling that creates this breakdown is the stress signal. And one of the things that StemRenu is known for is to reduce stress, mediate and balance stress, so that we tell individuals, well, they ask us, well, how much should I be taking? Well, how much stress do you have in your life? Because the fact that this is a wonderful opportunity for you to mediate and remove stress from your life, and essentially the effect of that is to help build tissue and be much healthier and stronger in so many ways.
Joe, can we go to the next slide? There we go.
Okay. So here you see some of the things we listed there. When you have stress, you're breaking your collagen 10 times faster. So you're accelerating the aging of your tissue integrity. You're disrupting blood sugar and pH balance. Remember, we talked about how this formula goes to the core issues of balance and healing. So you're able to balance pH and blood sugar. You're giving back energy levels. Energy is so important. We often think that we lose energy as we age.
Right, but we actually age because we lose the ability to make our own energy. And so it's really important to be able to understand just how, on this slide, how cortisols can really damage our body. And when we go into the excessive stressors and we have that excessive cortisol, when we break down our collagen 10 times faster, we do other things in the body as well. We throw off that pH. One of the key things that people see when they have excess cortisols or excess stress in the body, over time, we create this little tire around the belly. And it has this insulin cortisol imbalance that happens. And so once you start taking StemRenu, you can actually reduce your cortisol levels. You can work with stress. You can mediate your stress better. And what I mean by that is you might still have a stressful life or stressful things coming at you, but when you take StemRenu, it allows you to have that space to be able to handle the stress. Those stressors don't seem so stressful anymore. And so that's why Chris was saying it's really important when you have more stress, you want to take more of your StemRenu, and when you have less, you want to bring it down.
So Joe, we can say these things because we have the clinical documentation. This egg extract, this pre-embryonic egg extract, has been shown to mediate stress dependent upon the level of stress that exists. So when we took athletes and stressed them to the max in training, we saw the greatest reduction, up to about 50% reduction of their cortisol levels, because cortisol is the measurement, it's the stress, it's the hormone your body releases under stress. When you just give it to the person on the street, then they're just going through their average stresses of life. It's not, doesn't reduce it as much because it's not needed to reduce as much. So it helps the body for what the body needs. It's not a drug that forces the body into doing something. It assists the body in handling, it's maintaining its balance and its harmony. So when you have the clinical studies, you know that you're taking something that's helping others in a dramatic way, in a way that they can feel confident and safe. Because, Joe, we're just introducing foods. You know, people have been eating eggs for hundreds of thousands of years.
Long time.
And if you look at another key ingredient in the StemRenu, it's aloe vera. And aloe vera, you know, is known as the potted physician. It's one of the first anti-aging herbs declared in ancient Chinese medicine, you know, thousands of years ago. And this aloe that we put into the StemRenu is very unique. And the reason I say that is because it is stabilized in a form that is as close to fresh aloe vera as if you went in your backyard and picked an aloe vera leaf and just sliced it open and put the gel on your skin, or took it internally and realized the benefits of the healing properties of aloe. And we found out that those healing properties are based on the biological sugars that are in the aloe. And these sugars are needed for the cellular communication that we're talking about. These, you know, those little receptor sites on those cells, those hundreds of thousands of receptor sites, the core component is the specific sugar you find in the aloe vera plant. So not only are we enhancing the signaling, we're enhancing the receptor sites that receive the signals. So now you can see why we're getting such remarkable results with the combination of ingredients that is in StemRenu. You know, here's a list of these magical sugars. We call them polymannans because it's a mannose chain. The name of the sugar is mannose. And it has the ability to be anti-inflammatory. It's antioxidant. Not only is it antioxidant in itself, it helps your own antioxidant. Those of you that are taking vitamin C and vitamin E out there, you increase the bioavailability of those nutrients by as much as 300%. And again, these are clinical studies that allow us to make these statements. The allopolymannans have the ability to be antimicrobial, and they have the ability to be immune modulating. But most important is that they stimulate the production of our stem cells. So when you activate the production of these stem cells and then you activate their function, now you get the best of both worlds. And this is a little bit of a diagram that shows what goes on in your body. You have traumatized area, it signals for repair, and these signals tell the body to make more stem cells, but those stem cells alone do not make magic happen. They have to be activated. So many individuals have been shown in the studies to have stem cells encircling a lesion, a traumatized area, decades later after the trauma. And the only reason that trauma wasn't repaired is because those stem cells weren't activated. And we go back to our original premise is that It's the signaling that's key in stem cell technology today, Joe. Here we're looking at one more ingredient that's in the StemRenu, and the reason we want to share this ingredient is because it's a very unique plant source mineral. And what makes it so special, it comes from the sea, so it has the exact ratio that we're looking for, and the plant source of it makes it bioavailable. And we have actual studies that have shown over a long term, 7 years on this mineral complex, has the ability to regenerate our bones and our structure. And this is so important today because individuals have been told to take calcium and to take all these mineral supplements, and more often than not, what we're finding over long terms is that we're creating calcification, we're creating a mineral buildup in the body because we're not assimilating those minerals. And the minerals that we use in our StemRenu are very unique because they've been shown to be up to 98% bioavailable. So you have to be careful because you can take a mineral supplement and it'll acidify. It'll if you combine it with our egg proteins, it'll denature those living proteins. It'll destroy them. So it's just not any mineral complex. It has to be very specific. And again, this is what makes StemRenu work so powerfully. We have ingredients that work together synergistically and also deal with all the core issues of why we break down and why we get sick. So you take a look at what the signaling proteins are doing. You take a look at what the sugars are doing to facilitate the receptor sites on the cell. You look at the minerals for the electrical potential to do this communication that goes on. And so every function inside this cell that we're showing here is facilitated. The ability to make energy, the ability to make these proteins that help that create the health and well-being in the body. So a cell is like a little person. It has its own circulatory system, it has its own digestive system, it has its own eliminative system, and all of these things are what StemRenu communicates to. It communicates on these multiple ways to facilitate the dynamics that are going on in the system. And Joe, the effects of that are what you see with dealing with stress and function. And I think we're going to have a very interesting testimony coming up here. And I don't know if Andreas is available now, but this would be a good time to help explain this chart. Joe, is he going to be joining us today?
He's not, but you can share his testimonial. He gives you permission.
Oh, okay, I will. This will help explain a little bit. We had a wonderful story from an individual in the Midwest, and Andreas was dealing with a genetic disorder where his family and his own experience was one of creating excess cholesterol in the body. And we know that the dangers of too much cholesterol, anything out of balance creates a problem. But in his case, it was a genetic disorder. So this cholesterol is something that's critical for us. Our body doesn't make something because there has to be a need for it. And cholesterol, so you all know, is so important because it's used to make hormones. It's used to facilitate the boundaries of all our tissue in our body. It's used to make the glycolipids that are part of the signaling that goes on. But this cholesterol has to be converted into the hormones, it converted into the specific signal proteins and into the specific signal molecules that it's designed to do. So you're looking at a chart here and you're seeing on one side when the body's under stress, cholesterol makes stress hormones, and you see on the bottom there is cortisol. This is what we're talking about. So individuals under a lot of stress make a lot of cortisol. And what does cortisol do? Well, it gets the body into action, but when you have too much of it, it wears the body out. It breaks it down. So when we can calm the body, when we can reduce that stress, now that cholesterol is used in the healing and repairing side of the hormone production. And this is when we make the DHEA, the estrogens, the testosterones, all the things, the hormones that make us young and vital again.
It's interesting. We see a lot of people that are stuck in the stress cycle where they're doing the cortisols and the aldosterone. And what happens is when they're stuck in the stress cycle, they can't move into the sleep cycle, that cycle where you can get over on that other side of the good hormones and really renew the body. So when we see that people start taking StemRenu, what happens, one of the most important things is they improve their sleep. And it's truly important to have great deep sleep because that's when we renew our bodies.
So Joe, again, look at the broad spectrum experiences that people are getting from StemRenu. We know it's working for people because they're getting better sleep. We know it's working for individuals like Steve's practice, where he's seeing his patients reducing their PSA levels to a healthier level. You're seeing Andreas's experience where he's able to balance a genetic disorder that he's been working on for decades to try and find an answer, and nothing has worked until he took StemRenu. And StemRenu reduced his cholesterol levels, his blood panels, by as much as 50%. Because why? He was taking away the stress in his body that was creating the cholesterol. He was using the cholesterol more effectively and making the good hormones and helping him with his energy and his vitality. He was reducing the inflammation, that was stimulating this production. So all the things that would help him benefit naturally, he was introducing into the body with StemRenu. So all these key benefits of improved sleep, the reduction of stress, the faster recovery time, whether it's from a flu or from a basketball game, whatever is going on in your life, the ability to build the structure of the body so that you're vital and strong, the joints and the bones. We actually have the studies from the building blocks that we're introducing with our marine minerals. Well, we take those building blocks with StemRenu and facilitate that repair and that building, because StemRenu acts like an architect. That's what we mean when we say we're introducing renewal science on top of replenishment. We take good food and vitamins every day, and it's what we introduce with the NHT products, these incredible building blocks, the powerful proteins and triatine, the essential fatty acids and omega-3, the adaptogens and the noni, the wonderful, wonderful signaling that goes on with Restore Vital and Restore Silver. These are all the building blocks that get enhanced with StemRenu. So the marriage of these the NHT products with the StemRenu, its newest product, is so phenomenal, Joe. This is why I think you got excited in the beginning to see the incredible growth that's going to happen, because individuals are going to benefit in so many ways with their NHT products when they take them all together and see the synergy and wonderful ways that they work together.